The Anaconda, for me, began as an unattainable dream. When I first started playing, mind you this was during the original beta, no less than a decade ago, credits were scarce. So scarce in fact, that Anacondas were a rarity in the game. In the rare cases where I did meet a player-owned one, I'd stop and stare in awe, on one hand envious and on the other hand pondering the amount of grind it took that commander to own one, and the insane rebuy cost they would have to incur should they ever lose one. When long-range smuggling came about at the beginning of 2016, I finally mustered enough credits to purchase one, and I also made my very first Elite Tutorial Beetle. Wow, that was a long while ago. I remember well the feeling of undocking it for the first time and taking it to a combat zone. I reasoned, this must be like Captain Harlock felt when they first boarded the Arcadia. And while the Anaconda doesn't quite have the main gun batteries of the Arcadia, it's as close as it gets in the game. Sporting the largest power distributor in the game, coupled with the most medium and above good convergence hardpoints in the game, the most utility slots in the game, excellent internals, and a fantastic jump range, the Anaconda is a true behemoth. Like all behemoths, it does have to contend with drawbacks, however, namely its terrible agility, limited speed, and humongous target profile. The ship was built to be a tank. Slow, cumbersome, heavy-hitting, and meant to soak damage rather than to avoid damage. Fast forward a decade later, the world of Elite has fundamentally changed. Credits rain from the sky. Most anyone who wants an Anaconda can get one. Rebuys are hardly meaningful. And the Anaconda has become a popular anti-Xeno ship, for reasons both good and bad, as we will explain. You may have heard that, as a general principle, large ships do not fare particularly well in anti-Xeno combat. Many factors play into that, but, primarily, it comes down to the fact that Thargoid interceptors hit extremely hard, and it is far more viable to avoid their damage rather than to tank it. For that, you'll want speed, agility, and a small profile, essentially the opposite of what large ships offer. That notion hasn't prevented a lot of commanders from sticking to what they know as they approach AX combat, and what they know is often the tank damage and use big guns approach that works so well in human combat zones and resource extraction sites. It also hasn't helped that certain irresponsible commanders, read me, have foolishly popularized a particular variant of the AX Anaconda, the 6 mod shard's so-called Shardconda, as an exceptionally effective Cyclops murder machine. Like it or not like it, AX Anacondas are now a common sight on the battlefield. They come primarily in 3 variants. By and large, the most popular variant of the AX Anaconda is a skull called Shardconda. The Shardconda mounts 6 medium modified Guardian Shard cannons. The remarkable characteristic of the Shardconda is that, with such firepower, it is able to instantly destroy Cyclops interceptors, which certainly has a wow factor to it. The main challenge with the Shardconda is that it is ill-suited to fight anything other than a Cyclops. Interceptors have defense mechanisms to counter overwhelming firepower, and while you can overcome them on the lowly Cyclops, you will eventually have to learn and understand the phases of a fight to be helpful with anything harder. It is not uncommon to see less experienced commanders in anti-Xeno combat zones panic shielding basilisks and even hydras over and over and over again, effectively making no progress in the fight. Shardcondas further cannot be used in Titan space and are vulnerable to anti-Guardian zones, making them a debatable choice for Spires and a tricky one for anti-Xeno combat zones where glaives spawn, which is to say, most of them. In the hand of an experienced commander, with a lot of trigger discipline, they can be used to battle tougher interceptors, but they will generally underperform medium ships in that role. They are also, counterintuitively, likely to take a lot more damage than medium ships and ultimately rebuy a lot more often. With all that said, we can appreciate the feeling that some commanders embrace in putting together something that can splash a Cyclops with just a few simple trigger pulls, whereas they might have a real hard time doing so with other ships. Just don't be fooled, the Shardconda is a hard ship to fly. Sure, you can get clops with it, but if you want to be more than a nuisance in a combat zone, you will need to train and learn proper trigger discipline and timing. Or else, the only thing you're likely going to accomplish with it is to piss off everyone else in your instance when you panic shield that Medusa for the 5th time in a row. With regards to the build, engineering an Anaconda is pretty straightforward. For core modules, military-grade armor, 30 drives, long-range sensors, an armored power plant, lightweight light support, charge-enhanced power distributor, and increased range FSD are the near-universal way to go. As far as optional internals, the build has a lot more flex. As a Shardconda's primary hunting grounds are likely to be anti-xeno combat zones, a shieldless build is preferred. We recommend bringing multiple AFMUs, as triple module repair speed is a real beauty. The main choice is really between a Class 7 repair limpet controller or a universal limpet controller. I prefer the former. The Class 7 repair limpet controller repairs a lot more than the Class 5, and the universal limpet controller acts as a Class 5 as far as repairs are concerned. But any of the two choices can work. If you're fighting at a port-based CZ where repairs but not limpets are available, drop the repair limpet and cargo hold for one of each of an additional HRP and MRP. Utilities have a lot of flex, though a Shardconda will typically kit a shutdown field neutralizer, an enhanced Xeno scanner, a couple of caustic sink launchers, and fill the balance with heat sinks. Fire groups wise, you want to stagger your shards much like any ship, unless you're going for Cyclops Gib, then you'll be firing them all together. In that case, keep heat sinks handy, it'll get toasty in the cockpit. As we move to the Plasmaconda, I wanted to take a minute to ask for your support. If you find these videos helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. It really means a lot to us and help us notice your support. Thank you. A different and more specialized version of the AX Anaconda, the so-called Plasmaconda, kits 6 medium modified Guardian plasma chargers, or MPCs as they are often called. MPCs are incredibly distributor hungry, which is why they work so well on the Anaconda, which has the largest power distributor in the game. MPCs have the highest damage against Thargoid hulls, but rather limited breach damage, which means that they aren't very good at damaging interceptor hearts. However, there is one particular interceptor variant which doesn't have hearts at all. Can you guess which one it is? You probably guessed it. Orpheus interceptors, the main fare at Spire sites, alert systems, and Titan meltdowns, have no hearts, and take brutal damage from NPCs, especially after their shields drop. NPCs are so effective at dropping Orpheuses in fact, that a wing of just 3 Plasmacondas can destroy Orpheuses on spawn before they even have a chance to shield up. And even if they do shield up, sustained fire from a wing of Plasmacondas will wipe the floor of an Orpheus before it has a chance to trigger its anti-guardian field, or otherwise limit damage from it to negligible levels. To this day, a coordinated wing of Plasmacondas remains far and wide the best way to hunt at Spire sites. Nothing really comes close. Plasmacondas can, in theory, also be used at anti-xeno combat zones and in solo combat, but they are even more challenging to use and even more likely to panic shield interceptors than their Shardconda relatives, which is why we don't recommend it for such use. Note that my older build for the Plasmaconda was a Cyto Plasmaconda, which matched 2 Cytos Clamberless to the 6 NPCs, but their benefit was marginal, and the power of concordant sequence in a shielded wing cannot be understated. You have to try it for yourself. Hence the change in this updated build. The core, optional, and utilities vary somewhat from the Shardconda. Most notably, this is a bi-weaves shielded build with reinforced low-draw engineering. We swapped 2 of the 4 heat sinks for an additional 2 caustic sinks, as a Plasmaconda doesn't really need heat sinks, as plasma runs really cool even without a fully charged distro, and you'll likely be swimming in caustic soup a good chunk of your time at Spires. The additional power grid requirements force it to drop from the enhanced version of Xeno Scanner to the basic one, while up-tiering the power plant experimental from thermal spread to monstered. The build is the same in all other aspects. Note that the triple AFMUs are particularly important here, as you are likely to take AGF damage at some point. The multi-cannon variant of the Anaconda uses 4 large Azimuth pre-engineered AX multi-cannons and 2 medium Sirius pre-engineered missile racks, or, if those aren't within your reach, the far more accessible enhanced versions, MCs that are gimbaled and missiles being fixed, that can be purchased for credits at any rescued megaship. This variant trades raw damage potential to do away with most of the issues the other variants have. It absolutely shreds scouts and hunters. It is immune to anti-guardian zones, and can be used in Titan space. It will never panic shield an interceptor. While its contribution to heart exertion will be limited, its ability to automatically track and fire at hearts means that it is likely to deliver even more damage to hearts than most Guardian-equipped variants in a real-world combat scenario. Yet, it still has more than enough firepower to solo a Medusa if it comes to it. The missile allows it to take on Banshees from the sky and contribute good damage to Orifices and the Titan thermal core. They are unlikely to hit fast-moving targets, however. The MC-Conda is unquestionably the better build for less experienced AX commanders, as far as team contribution goes. The core and optional internals of the MC-Conda are very similar to those of the Shardconda. The triple AFMUs are less important here, as the ship is invulnerable to AGF, and you may safely swap out one or two of them if you so choose. The build also upgrades them to A-rated, as there is plenty of power grid available here to do so, but if you want to keep the B-rated ones of the Shardconda, that works too. But 11% repair capacity difference is not huge. As far as utilities go, an enhanced Xenoscanner is critically important on this build, as without one you cannot sub-target hearts, and thus your build will be crippled. Beyond that, you'll probably want a Thargoid pulse neutralizer for access to Titan space and shutdown field defense, and the usual mix of caustic sinks and heat sinks. Note that ADZs in particular do want heat sinks for sustained fire. Enhanced multi-cannons run a lot cooler and don't rely nearly as much on heat sinks. The Anaconda is a beast, but it is a feral, wild beast. Taming it takes a lot of skill. If you're willing to embrace the challenge, you'll be rewarded with the hardest hitting AX ship in the game. Just know that it will be a much harder journey than, say, learning to fight in the Crater Chieftain. Glory to mankind! Commander Meccan, over and out.